Thanks, guys.
Hafide and good afternoon. I'm Jason Salas reporting live from the Guam Homeland Security Office and the you as we walk in one of the most you are going to witness live the very latest weather information on the tropical depression, a tropical storm Mangkhut, of course, a word in the Thai language. Will join me momentarily, but we are taking you once again back to this secured area. The heavy weather briefing for this afternoon will begin. I know we've been putting out advice as soon as they come out from Civil Defense. They've been very, very diligent in keeping everybody abreast and appraised of what is going on. So we'll take our places here, and you are going to find out. Okay. Okay, so stay tuned. We'll have the very latest with heavy weather briefing coming up in just a few moments. So stay with us. Add your comments below, please. Where can I set this up, Charles?
Normally in the way back. You can actually go to the policy room.
Oh, the mic?
Yeah. Oh, the mic.
Yeah.
Right there.
Okay. Was this cool? Yeah. Oh, I don't want to be on top. How you doing, man?
How are you doing? Kind of from up there. Yep. That's good. Cheers.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. We anticipate going to Court 3 tonight at 7 p.m. The governor has signed an executive order for pre-landfall declaration that allows resources to be mobilized to support the mayors and other government of Guam agencies in preparation for the storm and to mitigate hazards. We also anticipate placing the National Guard on state active duty tomorrow to bring on more resources. FEMA is coming in to help us with their IMAT team. They'll be coming in tonight.
Yeah, so immediately after Landon gives his heavy weather brief, all racks, please stay back, and we'll go ahead and discuss the what's going to happen over the next 24 to 72 hours. Okay, so Landon.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. You hear me okay? All right, good to see you all again. Again, apologies under these circumstances. Here's our current situation. This is our visible satellite image of Tropical Storm Mangkhut. Currently leaving the northern Marshall Islands. It's tropical storm maximum winds sustained at 40 miles per hour with wind gusts up to 50 miles per hour. We do expect it to maintain its general westward track the next several days with a passage very near or over Guam on Tuesday. A lot of questions have been centering around what's keeping this tropical cyclone going due west versus going towards the northwest. We have a subtropical ridge just to the north, and we expect that to keep it suppressed on a westward course. Models are in fairly good agreement about that motion, and they've been fairly consistent for the last several days. The infrared satellite picture shows the heaviest convection is displaced away from the center towards the west through the north. What does that tell us? It tells us that it still remains fairly disorganized. It's still trying to get its act together. Once we see a good consolidated area of convection around the center of circulation, a good round shape, that's when we know it's going to be a more powerful typhoon to deal with. Right now it's still forming, it's still developing. It has a lot of vertical wind shear, and that's keeping it inhibited from strengthening more rapidly. As long as it takes its time strengthening, that's better for us. Water vapor satellite image just shows the abundant moisture with this tropical cyclone. We have some dry area here in an upper level circulation that's keeping the divergence aloft over this tropical storm. Divergence aloft will help this thing develop in the future. That vertical wind shear I mentioned earlier, that is what's inhibiting its strengthening phase right now. We do expect that wind shear to decrease over the next 12 to 36 hours, and that will allow this storm to intensify. Some microwave imagery from our polar orbiting satellites. This shows us what looks like inside of the clouds, the raindrops, the heaviest showers within the rain bands. We do see these consolidating rain bands within the storm now as it's developing. The center of circulation is right here north of Inuitak, and that was about 5 o'clock this morning. Another polar orbiter we have shows the winds at the ocean surface. Right now the strongest winds are east to north of the center of circulation. So it's still not very symmetric, but we'd expect it to become more symmetric as it gets better defined, better organized in the next 1 to 2 days. So again, we issue forecast tracks every 6 hours. This is our 1 p.m. forecast track from early this afternoon. Our next forecast track will come out at 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock this evening. The bad news for us, it's still maintaining this course towards Guam. We're looking at a Tuesday noon passage as a Category 4 storm, 130 miles per hour sustained winds. Now keep in mind, this is a forecast track. This is subject to change. Our 8 o'clock advisory may see a little bit of difference in track location and also timing. It could be Tuesday afternoon or Tuesday evening, or it could be Tuesday morning. If you recall, yesterday we were looking at a midnight Tuesday passage. It's sped up by 12 hours. So don't focus so much on the closest point of approach where it's going to be, because all of the CNMI are still within range of this storm, or it could even dip farther south and pass south of Guam. This is the uncertainty graphic. This shows us exactly where the storm could deviate. It could deviate farther to the south or to the north. Current track takes it right through here towards Guam, but that center could pass as far south as well south of Guam or as far north as Tinian and Saipan. So the key point to take away from this is that it remains well to our east, about 1,100 to 1,200 miles east of the Marianas. We can still see some deviation in this path that could hopefully give us a miss. I mentioned earlier also the consistency in the models. Unlike previous storms we've had the last several months that develop near Chuuk or southeast of Guam, the forecast models have been in a kind of a spaghetti plot. They're all over the place. We see the forecast track like the windshield wiper effect. One forecast model will have it south of Guam, the next one will be up to Saipan. This one has been very consistent, and it's actually become more consistent since 24 hours ago during our heavy weather brief yesterday. Forecasting wise, that helps us build confidence in its forecast track. The bad news is that it still passes over Guam or very close to Guam on Tuesday. So 1 o'clock, the tropical storm was located at 13.7 north, 161.5 east, and that is about 1,125 miles east of Guam. Current movement was towards the west, northwest at 285 degrees at 17 miles per hour. So that's moving along pretty fast. We want it to keep moving rapidly because that means it has less time to intensify. If it slows down, that has more time to gain that momentum, to build that energy and the intensity. We do expect this forecast track to continue generally westward through the weekend. While it's moving towards the west-northwest right now, we expect it to go more due west and possibly just south of west in another day or two. Current intensity 40 mile per hour sustained winds, but the gusts are up to 50 miles per hour. Damaging winds of 39 miles per hour or greater extend outward up to 100 miles from the center. Close to the point of approach, again, Tuesday noon. And I use that term lightly because this is at 1 o'clock. Our 7 o'clock advisory may have a closest point of approach Tuesday evening or Tuesday morning. So don't focus in your communications on exactly where this will pass or exactly what time. Just know that Tuesday is going to be a rough day for all of us over here. For Guam, we expect the onset of damaging winds around Monday night, 11 p.m. Those are tropical storm force winds. We expect the destructive winds of 58 miles per hour or greater by Tuesday morning, 6 a.m. And typhoon force winds could come by mid to late Tuesday morning, depending on the exact track that we're looking at. Maximum sustained wind forecast based off this current plot, Category 3 or Category 4 typhoon. What does that mean for us? This could be our worst hit in 15 years. Rainfall. The good news is the heaviest rainfall is going to be concentrated close to that center of circulation. Unlike Tropical Storm Cimarron, where we had days of heavy rainfall, flash floods from the monsoon that was generated from that storm, the heaviest rains will be consolidated close to that center of circulation. Based on the current forecast track, we do expect 10 to 12 inches of rain through Wednesday night. However, just to the north in Rhoda, 4 to 6 inches of rain and 2 to 4 inches of rain in Tinian Saipan. What does this mean for us? Well, if this storm wants to deviate 100 or 150 miles south of Guam, our rainfall totals would be considerably less. If it wants to go more for a Rhoda passage, Rhoda would see more rain and we would see less. So again, rain's going to be a factor for us if it passes over Guam, but again, the rainfall is going to be brief. If the storm has a quick passage of the island, the rainfall accumulations will be less. But if the storm speed slows down, we could see heavier rainfall amounts. Flood advisories are currently not in effect at this time, but we may start issuing those bulletins as early as Sunday night accordingly to our forecast. Significant wave heights are currently 12 feet with this tropical storm, and those waves will rapidly increase as the tropical storm intensifies. Category 3 or 4 typhoon can generate waves on the open ocean upwards of 25 to 40 feet. Those are again open ocean waves. So expected damage. If we are facing a Category 3 typhoon, keep in mind sustained winds with a Category 3 are 119 or 111 to 129 mile per hour sustained. That's what our intensities are based off of. However, the wind gusts are higher, 140 to 164 miles per hour. We expect severe damage to wooden structures and light material structures, strong rip currents, and coastal inundation and flooding upwards of 10 to 15 feet. That's a Category 3 typhoon. You do need to be in a concrete structure for this. Now, our worst case scenario that we're considering right now is a Category 4. Sustained winds 130 to 156 miles per hour, but those wind gusts will be stronger, 165 to 198 miles per hour. Again, extensive damage to wooden structures, materials, light materials, buildings, deadly rip currents, and 12 to 18 feet of coastal flooding. So any of the vulnerable populations, they need to take this very seriously and get away from the water. Again, get into a concrete structure. So again, forecast-wise, we're expecting a Category 2 to 3. Worst case scenario, Category 4. Come Monday morning, Monday afternoon, we'll have a much better feel for this exact timing, exact intensities. Because again, if this thing deviates to the south, we'll have lesser effects on the island. If it deviates more towards the north, lesser effects for Guam itself, but worse conditions for the CNMI. So we need to focus very closely on the exact track and intensities in subsequent forecasts over the next 36 to 48 hours. Bottom line, we expect the worst conditions on Tuesday, September 11th. keep alert for changes such as forecast track shifts to the north or south, because we do expect those to still happen. Every 6-hour forecast, we're going to have a little bit of change in the forecast plot, the intensity is expected, and the timing. That is subject to change with each forecast run. It's always possible we could have more rapid intensification. The erratic movement that we've seen with previous storms, we don't expect it so much with this one because forecast models have been very consistent and they are in fairly well agreement. All of Guam and CNMI should prepare for a direct hit by Category 3 or, worst case, Category 4. Planning ahead, the Weather Service will be placing Guam and CNMI under a typhoon watch with our next advisory that will come no later than 8 o'clock tonight. We're aiming to have it out by 7 o'clock. Again, typhoon watch with our next advisory this evening, so be planning for that. And that's what it means. A typhoon watch means typhoon force conditions are possible within 48 hours. And that's based with the onset of damaging tropical storm force winds arriving Monday night. And that concludes this heavy weather brief. Any questions?
Landon, I'd actually like to hold off until you remove the microphones.
Okay. Let me go over there. Hang tight.
Thank you, Landon. Sorry for the pause.
Okay, once again, very, very critical information being disseminated right now. We're going to move down and we will have some more information about the storm. If you're just joining us on the live stream right now, that was Landon Aidlit, one of the coordinators with the National Weather Service, detailing the position right now of what has been upgraded to a tropical storm Mangkhut earlier this afternoon. We're going to walk over there. We're going to get some more information, as I said. But basically, he's saying right now the storm very, very tight, very, very condensely packed, moving at a brisk pace, and that is a good thing. The storm, as Landon was saying, has not had time to basically sit and stew and build intensity. That's what we're hoping for at this point. If it continues on its westward track, as is currently forecasted, it could veer to the north of us, head maybe up towards more to our friends in the CNMI, maybe head, take a peak downward and pass south of Guam. So we'll get some more information right now from Jenna Bloss with NW.
So Jason, I'm going to try to grab Landon
Okay.
as soon as he's done with his brief.
Yeah. There he is.
Landon, you're wanted.
Okay, so Landon is on his way right now, and we're going to ask some questions and get some more information up close and personal from Landon Aidlit from
Like Landon, just make it a little bit bigger.
Landon Hafaday.
Hafaday, how are you?
All right, thanks so much for a wonderful presentation. Very, very interesting information. In all the years that you've been doing this and everything, you were saying that the fact that the storm is very, very tightly packed and it's moving at a somewhat rapid pace, that is a good thing for the island at this point, right?
That's good for us as long as it keeps its fast motion forward. It has less time to really intensify, but it's 1,200 miles east of us, so it has a lot of space to really get its act together, intensify, and become a really formidable entity that we have to deal with here on Guam.
And I know one thing that you were emphasizing is that the earlier projections had it maybe passing sometime late afternoon, maybe even the evening on Tuesday. With the recent events over maybe just the past 12 hours, as you were saying, it's now looking maybe sometime earlier on Tuesday, but that could all change.
That's correct. A lot of times people focus on the closest point of approach and exact timing. Yesterday we were looking at a Tuesday night passage. Now we're looking at more of a midday Tuesday. So every time we put out a forecast, we expect some wobble in its exact track, its exact passage and intensity. As of this afternoon, we're looking at a passage around midday Tuesday as a Category 3 or 4 storm. So bottom line, it's a major threat to the islands that we have to take very seriously, one that I've not worked with in my 8 years here on the island.
And then again, it's at 7 p.m. precisely tonight, we will be in condition of readiness 3. That will be declared.
Yeah, that'll be declared by Homeland Security. As far as the National Weather Service, we'll be putting out a typhoon watch for all of Guam and the CNMI.
Okay, and then final question. Provided on the NWS website or updated, that's 7 p.m., 1 a.m., and then 7 a.m., 1 p.m., correct?
That's correct. So again, don't focus so much on the exact timing or the exact location of its passage, because all of the Mariana Islands are in play for this thing to either pass over or very near to. Right now, it's making a beeline for Guam, but that could still change. We hope it deviates further to the south. That would mean we're over-prepared, but that means we dodged a huge bullet. But right now, Tuesday looks like a rough day for us.
All right, well done, thank you.
Landon, what's the likelihood percentage-wise that the typhoon will hit Guam?
I don't want to give a percent, but it looks very likely that it's going to make a passage. The models have been in very fair agreement the last several days, run to run, and also with each other, that we're going to have a passage either over Guam or very close to Guam on Tuesday. So that does make us feel a little more confident in our forecasts, but we can always expect some change in its track. That's the nature with tropical cyclone forecasting. We always like to have accurate forecasts, but this is one that we like to have a little wrong.
Okay. And usually based on the predictions that National Weather Service has made in the past, do you know percentage-wise, like how many times that when we predicted a typhoon, it has actually hit Guam, or is there any way you can make us feel a little bit at ease right now? Or
Well, I don't want to give an exact percentage, but usually our forecasts are pretty solid. It's really a matter of, does that center of circulation pass over Guam or near it? That's not so much the factor, because even if that center of circulation or the eye itself passes through the Rota Channel or south of Mauricio, the structure of the storm spreads across a large area. So even if that center of circulation doesn't pass over the island, we're going to be dealing with some major storm effects. So bottom line, be prepared. Don't focus on that exact time of arrival or the exact passage of its center of circulation. Plan for a storm.
thank you.
Sorry, one more from me. Would you consider this a storm that has more impact as far as the amount of rainfall? Because I know you touched on that. You said right now the projections are between 10 and 12 inches. So would it be a very wet storm, or would this be a storm that's a high concentration of wind?
It's going to be a wet storm. Once those rains start, again, they're going to be consolidated closer to the center itself. So you're not going to be seeing a lot of heavy rains days before or days after the storm. Once those winds start picking up, those rain bands, it's all going to be coming all in one big force. So we're looking at a pretty nasty Tuesday, again, upwards of a half foot to a foot of rain for Guam if it passes over Guam on Tuesday. Rainfall totals, again, it's going to be a torrential rainfall, but at that point, you can't run from the waters or the floodwaters. So we've had problems with flash flooding with the monsoon, with frequent storms recently. Stay away from low-lying areas, stay away from creeks, rivers, stay off the roads.
Okay.
Yeah, once those rain starts, they're going to be coming with the winds as well.
Okay, well, relative to the size and the volume of past storms, like more recently Typhoon Dolphin, I know you said that the expected size of this storm is about 105 miles per hour from the radius. Is that a very large storm, relatively speaking?
I would say it's a moderate-sized storm. It's not really a very large storm. We've seen larger storms as far as area coverage. Right now, it has tropical storm force winds extending outwards from 100 miles from the center. I would say that's average size. But we're going to see this thing mature. It's going to intensify, and we're going to see those typhoon force winds start developing probably in the next 12 to 24 hours.
All right.
Can you real briefly, for people joining us right now, can you briefly just, how strong is the storm now, and how strong are the winds expected to be when it nears Guam?
Right now, it's a tropical storm with maximum winds of 40 miles per hour. We're going to be reevaluating those wind speeds by our 7 o'clock bulletin. Again, that's going to be our next public advisory at 7 o'clock tonight. We do expect it to be a Category 3 typhoon as it passes over Guam on Tuesday. Again, it could be a Category 4, it could be a Category 2. It really depends on the nature, how it evolves the next several days. So we're going to have to watch it closely. Regardless, it looks like we could be dealing with a threat more significant than Typhoon Dolphin back in May of 2015.
All right, thanks a lot. Okay, so
Everything you good?
that was the National Weather Service briefing you. The Island, but concerned residents who have Guam in their heart all over the planet on what is going on with what is expected to become a typhoon sometime around Tuesday. Once again, they said updates coming out every 6 hours, 7 p.m., 1 a.m., 7 a.m., and then 1 p.m. So make sure you can go to KUAM.com or the KUAM News mobile app. We put links for everything you need to know. Just keep hitting refresh on those pages to see what the projections are. Make sure you're staying aware of exactly what's going on, and make sure to listen and watch the stations of KUAM, because we will have all the information as it happens. Landon, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, and we'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching us.
Hey, those